FormBuilder is a class we can use when building reactive forms to create the form model from a configuration. We can think of it as a factory that creates form groups and form controls for us. The FormBuilder shortens the boilerplate code required to create an instance of the root form group and its associated form controls and nested form groups. This can make the code that creates the form model easier to read and maintain. The FormBuilder is provided as a service, so we access the FormBuilder instance using dependency injection. Since the FormBuilder is provided as a service, we follow the same steps we do for every other Angular service we use. We import FormBuilder with code that looks like this. We inject the FormBuilder instance using the class constructor, like this. Lastly, we use that instance to create our form group. Notice that we no longer need to create new instances of form group or form control here. We'll look at this syntax more in a moment. First, let's try out FormBuilder. Here in the component class, we import FormBuilder from Angular Forms. Our class currently has no explicit constructor, so we need to add one. Then we inject the FormBuilder instance using the constructor parameter. Now we can use that FormBuilder instance to create our form group. Instead of creating a root form group instance using the new keyword, we'll use the FormBuilder instance and call its group method. The group method allows us to define the set of controls and nested form groups that are associated with the root form group. Instead of explicitly creating a new form control instance, we simply set the default value. We could set the default value to anything. We'll set the defaults to an empty string for all but the sendCatalog form control. The group method returns an initialized root form group instance with all of its associated form controls and nested form groups. Now we can delete our original code and remove form control from the import statement because we no longer use it as a data type. Does this look easier to read without all of the cruft? Let's bring the form up in the browser and see that it still works. Let's take a closer look at the FormBuilder's form control syntax. The FormBuilder group method takes in a control configuration object that defines the form controls associated with the form group. In this example, we define two form controls, first name and sendCatalog. Each control configuration object is comprised of a key and value pair. The key is the form control name, such as first name here. The value can be an expression that defines the default value for the form control. For example, the last entry has a key of sendCatalog and a default value of true. Alternatively, the value can be an object with two properties, value and disabled. The value property is the default value as before, and the disabled property is a Boolean defining whether the input element should be disabled. We'll see that in the upcoming demo. Yet another option allows specifying an array. The first element of the array is the default value expression or the object with the value and disabled state. The next two elements of the array, not shown here, define the validation rules. We'll look at validation in the next module. Now let's try out an alternate syntax. To try out an alternate syntax, let's change the last name value to be an object with a default value and a disabled state. Let's check that out in the browser. We see that the last name default appears and the input element is disabled. It works. Notice also that the last name no longer appears in the value property for the root form group. This could be a useful feature in a situation that needs this functionality, but we don't need it here, so let's change it back to an empty string default. Looking back at our template, notice that our validation is all still here. We could leave it here, but if we want all of the benefits of reactive forms, we'll want to move it into our component code as well. We'll do that in the next module. For now, let's finish up this module with some checklists we can use as we build our own reactive forms.